Hello, everyone, and welcome to our review for The Flash. We just got out of the New Zealand premiere for it. Comes out next week for worldwide for everyone. So, yeah, we're going to discuss it right here, right now. Obviously, you guys know us. We're not going to get into spoiler territory. We may look at be doing a spoiler review later on because there's lots to talk about. But we're going to try and talk about the movie without talking about the movie. So yeah, no spoilers then. What did you think of this?
I thought it beat my expectations, but it didn't quite live up to the hype of the stuff I read and, the praises that execs and Tom Cruise were giving. I didn't think it reached quite that level, but it was still a good film and probably easily one of the best DCU movies since The Suicide Squad. That is the James Gunn one.
I was just about to ask.
For clarification there. Yeah, I think obviously this borrowed heavy elements from the Flashpoint. I'm going to go into that because it's already a comic thing. It's pretty much where the Flash goes back in time, save his parents, and he comes back into his own timeline, and everything's changed. So the Atlanteans are at war with the Amazonians, and Thomas Wayne is Batman, and Martha Wayne is the Joker. And Flash is obviously trying to figure out how to fix all of that. But his parents are alive. In this, it is somewhat the same. Like he goes back in time to save his mother, yet with a bit less of involvement in there. And when he comes back, he gets knocked into another timeline, and everything's just messed up. And the events transpires there as from there. So obviously the Batman, no spoilers because it's in the trailers.
Yeah, of course.
That
whatever's in the trailer, we can free to discuss that.
So
I feel.
Michael Keaton is pretty much this world's Batman, and Sasha Calle as Supergirl is Superman. And that goes on from there. So it's not quite exactly like Flashpoint, but it follows similar threads, so to speak, which was pretty cool. I mean, you can't. I wouldn't really expect them to copy the Flashpoint exact. Because then everyone would just be criticizing how it's just a rip-off of that, but probably not as good, So I do like what they did with this. There was different spins on stuff. There was I wouldn't say jaw-dropping moments, but like oh shit moments in there. The fan service is forced, but it's funny at the same time. There's some of them is really good, and then others is just like you're clearly trying here, but. It's still cool and funny. I can't really talk about the ending because it's a bit minute because apparently we haven't seen the actual ending of The Flash because there's a secret ending that's not going to be shown until films come out.
I think it's just something very brief and funny maybe,
Who knows? Or it could have actual implications towards the
DCU.
So I'm not even going to talk about the ending just in case it is the actual ending. But I thought the way it ended was pretty cool, Flash did what he did, but still there was some sort of consequences for him at the end of the day.
It would be neat if DCU was continuing on. That's how I would put it.
Yeah, it would.
Yeah,
it would. In terms of performances, I think this is easily Ezra Miller's best portrayal of the Flash. I've always been one of those guys that didn't like him as the Flash, and that's from when he first got casted in the Justice League. I didn't enjoy him then, and then when Zack Snyder's came out, it was a bit more better, and then I think this one is just a hell of a lot better. He had a lot more to do in this. You could obviously see that there was a lot more emotion behind it. You're going to see him to do a lot more as well, the different sides of acting, the funny side, the emotional side, the physicality, CGI, I would say physicality side as well. So I thought he was great in this. Michael Keaton's Batman, as someone that watched the 89 version, it was always great to see him and hear that score. I thought he did great, and I don't think he outstayed his welcome. He was in there quite a bit, but not overshadowing the Flash, because it is his movie after all. And Sasha Calle as Supergirl, I thought she was great. For such a very minor role on screen time and her experience as well. This is like her first big role, and I thought she did really, really well. With more screen time, I think she would have excelled a lot more. But still a very good thing from this. In regards to the score, I was a little bit disappointed. I mean, the score isn't terrible. It's obviously better than most DC stuff we get nowadays.
Yeah.
It did sound quite flashy, and I hope
Mm.
people know what I mean by that. You
Yeah.
know, like slow, fast beats. It's hard to describe.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm quite sad that I didn't include that score in Zack Snyder's Justice League.
Yeah.
You might know what it's called.
At the Speed of Force.
At the Speed of Force,
Yeah.
because that's a fantastic theme,
Mhm.
and we discussed this before the film even started, that we were hoping that it was in it,
Yeah.
but sadly that
It
wasn't.
was in the trailer, so I'm surprised it wasn't
Yeah.
in this movie.
Maybe rights for composers or something,
Yeah.
who knows, but yeah, I thought the score overall was fine. Visuals was pretty hit and miss at most points.
Yeah.
Really, it's the typical, CGI fest that you get
Mhm.
nowadays with comic book films, but
Yeah.
I think the way that they portrayed the Flash's speed was better in this film than they did in Justice League and Zack Snyder's Justice League. I think the way that they
Mhm.
visualized that was a lot better.
Yeah.
But the overall CGI and stuff, cinematography was pretty average as well.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's my thoughts.
It's interesting. I'm mostly on board with what you're saying here. I agree with you in terms of it meeting expectations. I wouldn't go as far to say it exceed my expectations. I was never really down low heavily on this movie. It always had its problems, and that's not part of my judgment here. But we heard a lot over the recent months about this movie being amazing. Some of the one of the best comic book movies coming out and whatnot, but I don't think it is. I don't think it even comes close to it. I think there is a lot, I'm not going to say a lot, but there is a good amount of issues with this. At times, it doesn't feel like Flash's movie. I think Batman is in it like way too much, honestly. It considering, I don't want to get into runtimes about characters and stuff, but you compare Batman's runtime with other characters, it's quite significant. It feels like at some points during the movie, it loses focus on the Flash's goal and what's happening there, and it's just like deviates to this other point and what's going on in that timeline. If you know what I'm following, and anyone who's seen the movie will be able to follow what I'm talking about there. And then it kind of just gets back to what it was doing beforehand. So it's just a little bit jumbled there. So I think that third act is a little bit messy, and it's not focusing on the right things. But I'll say that humor and heart, they find a nice balance in this. There are parts where it's genuinely funny, and there are parts where it's like genuinely quite moving. I think, recently in like comic book movies and MCU's a big one for this is where it's like the humor comes in when it's supposed to be emotional, and then it loses all impact, and it's not funny. It's kind of cringe, and you just you don't feel anything. I think this does a really good job of like balancing those tones. Because Barry Allen is, a naturally funny character, and we've seen it on the TV show, and they've balanced it pretty well throughout there. I've only seen 3 seasons, I'm not going to see any more. You could speak more on that if you want to, because you have seen everything, Trooper. But yeah, so I thought they did a very good thing there. I love how they put in like paradoxical kind of like concepts into the timelines, and not the multiverse, but like all this different kind of stuff. It allows it to be thought-provoking without it being confusing. And I'll go to Avengers Endgame is confusing when it handles time. I didn't find this one confusing. I found it pretty straightforward, and I think any audience member could go in there and enjoy it and not question things too much when it comes to time travel, which is very hard to do. Any time travel always has like major questions, like, wait, how did that happen if that happened? And I think this did it, or explained it pretty well, or defined their rules in that universe pretty well, where you're not going to be questioning it too much. I thought some of the camera work was fantastic. In particular, there's a scene at the start of the movie, the opening action sequence, where some people are falling out of a building. And it's super creative. The camera's all over the place. It's only really hindered by, visual effects, which there's some good visual effects. I'll give it that. But there are some horrendous shots, like just so bad. And I'm like, it's painful stuff. But it's kind of become the norm with big budget movies these days. I think it's, mostly in part to a lot of this kind of content coming out with not much VFX workers and them being overworked and underpaid and la-di-da. But yeah, some bad VFX there, some good VFX. Yeah, as for the score, Nan said it pretty well there. Just I didn't think it elevated the movie. It didn't launch out at me or anything, but it didn't really distract me from the movie. I think it just fit in well and was fine. But yeah, I mean, overall, I thought it was satisfying. It's it's obviously a movie about letting go, moving on from pain, and pain is kind of like what makes you, and it's kind of a good thing at the end of the day. So I think they hit that message quite strongly for the most part, and it's one that I think should be appreciated by most people. Yeah. Anything else to add on to that?
No, I thought some of the Batman fight sequences was good, just the way
That was good. Yeah.
that he used like his gadgets to accompany his fight style. I thought that's probably one of the best Batman like fight sequences where he uses gadgets and like his surroundings that we've seen in cinema so far.
It was cool to see Keaton's Batman to do that as well, because you couldn't do that back in the 80s, 90s.
No way.
Yeah.
So it was really cool. So I did really like that. But other than that, I don't think I have anything else to say really.
Yeah.
I mean, there is cameos in it as expected, and there's obviously fan service as well.
Yeah.
Some hit, some don't.
I think the fan service is good. I think because like you know the difference between cheap fan service and like earned fan service. I was gonna say Transformers for some reason.
Thinking about Monday.
Yeah, which we're gonna go see. But yeah, no, I think they really earned their fan service here, or it felt appropriate. I think there's a couple of things where it felt a little bit like forced and unnatural. I think we both, kind of looked at each other when it came on. But I think it's goofy, and it's meant to be goofy in that kind of way.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, it's fun. I thought it was like cool to see that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah. But I mean, as for the action sequences, I thought they were really good. Like all of them.
Yeah.
And I think you brought up that important point about the Flash's powers. I think they're quite hard to I don't know what that was. We just had a big bang. It's just all cool stuff. But yeah, no, Flash's powers are quite hard to portray in film, especially having quite compelling action sequences with a villain. And I think they did a very good job here and just showing his powers, and how he uses it for his day and what he can do. I thought they were really well done. Yeah. Final question for you though, because on Let's Be Real on Monday we touched upon Andy Muschietti. He'll be directing Batman Brave and the Bold.
Mm-hmm.
We see him. He's done Batman sequences here, and he's had 2 Batmans to play around with. They were both in the trailers. Don't give me that look. They were both in the trailers. And so yeah, he's going to be directing that movie. And we've just seen this movie where I think it's his first comic movie. I think so. Yeah.
I don't know. We can clarify those details later.
No. But the writer for this for the Flash is also the writer of Batman Brave and the Bold as well. So what are your thoughts moving forward with Batman Brave and the Bold?
Yeah, I'm all for it now as well. I pretty much said it in on the Let's Real podcast that I was for it. My final thoughts would be after I see this, and I think the way that he did Batman, and if we can get any more of the action sequences as we did in this film, I'll be so much happier.
Yeah.
Considering Batman is somewhat of a younger, or is supposed to be so much more of a younger sort of actor in Brave and Bold than he is in this film.
Mm-hmm.
In terms of the writing, there's obviously stuff that they can work on, and it depends what story they go with. So can't quite comment on that. But in terms of the director, yeah, I'm quite happy with this director coming on board.
Oh yeah, because the writer Christina Hodson, she wrote Birds of Prey and Bumblebee, which are 2 pretty good movies. Yeah. So I think it's a movie that could come together and be something quite good. And as you said before, the action sequences with Batman, they were good. So I don't have any doubt that they can bring that here as well. I just hope they really go with that kind of style of Batman. The kind of goofy, almost superhero-like kind of action sequences, because I love what Reeves is doing with the Batman, really grounded, human. He's not Captain America or anything. He gets beaten up and and it's quite brutal. And I would love to say, and the DC Elseworlds is what they're doing. So if it's a really goofy comic book, almost over the top kind of style of like action, it's one I'm going to be quite on board for. And I think with Robin, you kind of have to do that because you can't bring a child into like brutal fight sequences. How old's Robin again? Like, was he 15, 14?
Yeah, I think this version is around about that age.
Yeah. And you just could not do that. I don't think. There'd be people and like disappointed or angry about it, as you know. Yeah. But no, anything to add on about The Flash? No. Is it worthy of being our least anticipated movie for the year?
That was only there because of Ezra Miller and his controversy. But now, if I had it in my top 10, it'll be fine. It'll probably be still in that lower top 10.
I don't think it would for me. Yeah. I thought it was fine. It's a movie we're going to have to go see again because apparently they're changing it.
Yeah.
Or it's different for screenings after the 16th, is what we've read, which is annoying and quite deceiving. Yeah. I don't know how I'm meant to make an assessment on how the film wraps up.
I mean, they did show a video of the director telling us that what we're seeing is not the final product. So
that is true.
But I thought it was just something that they showed at CinemaCon or fan screenings.
Yeah.
I mean, they just left it in here, but must be true.
Yeah. I mean, it's just like reviews have come out and they're not that great in terms of what we heard. I thought it'd be like, mid 80s or even perhaps the 90s, just so much positivity. And then it debuted around 69%. I think it's at like 71, 72. Perhaps that ending kind of it might influence like people's opinions because the ending does wrap up in a way that kind of could allow you to have a different assessment on the movie. So we'll have to see how that goes. But yeah, I guess we leave it to the score now. What is your rating out of 10?
My one will probably be a 7 out of 10.
7 out of 10. Yeah. I was gonna go 6.8. Yeah. Thought about that one on the drive home. Yeah. Because I'm notorious for Nayan always having to go first and me taking my time to come up with ratings out of 10. Yeah. So now I think about on the way home, what is my number? But yes, that is going to do it for us today on the Flash review. Again, we might be doing a spoiler review. We'll have to see, depending on our time. It's a big news week or something like that. We might just not have the capacity to do it. But yeah, if you liked this, make sure you follow us on any podcast platform that you're listening from. Be sure to check us out on Twitter, YouTube, Pinterest. Check us follow on Twitter. Subscribe to us on YouTube. Support us and the show and everything that we're doing. Also, you guys can tune into moviegames.com. From there, we do 4K movie analysis, box office analysis. We cover award season, review movies, the works. Remember to sign up for our weekly newsletter and never miss an update. Thanks again for joining us for the Flash review. We'll catch you on Monday for Transformers Rise of the Beast review. Keep bringing the hype. Peace.
See ya.